is the U70 lock. It is my favorite tool for transferring the stitches because it's very easy to use. If you turn it over and look at the underside, you will see a plastic plate with a channel. When you slide the lock across the bed, the needle feet will be forced to go through this channel, and that's how they are moving up and down on the needle bed. Since I love this tool, I decided to copy that plate on a sheet of paper. Then I made some corrections to the design and I printed out the template. I tried to make my first prototype out of wood, but it was not moving the needle smoothly. So my first successful prototype was made with a bank card cut in the same shape. I would have continued working on that idea, but I bought my first 3D printer and I refined the design even more. This is what my stitch dropper tool looks like. I made a small bow in the style of the U70 lock that should be the handle of the tool. I wanted to use a screw to mount the handle to the plate, but then I decided to use two-component glue to stick both parts together. I will use the holes on both parts to align them properly. You can find the file for this tool on my Thingiverse profile. All the links will be in the description of the video. Now I will let the glue dry. And this is what the stitch dropper tool looks like. If I had printed the handle using a black filament, I guess it would have been just like the U70 lock. And now let's check if it will work. Our beautiful machines can knit drop stitch by using several different techniques. The first one of them is by knitting 2 rows with the main yarn and 2 rows with an empty eyelet. This technique requires the use of the pushers and the arrow keys on both beds, and since the machine can knit automatically, it's mostly used on the E6000. A semi-automatic way that can be used on the Passap is to knit 2 rows with the main yarn, then detach the front lock and knit 2 rows with it only. Each time when you see this symbol, you have to use this technique. The third technique to achieve the same results is when using the stitch dropper tool. You need to knit 2 rows with the main yarn and then 2 rows with the stitch dropper tool. It will eliminate the need to detach the front lock and knit 2 rows with it. Now I will show you the basic principle of the drop stitch. I'm knitting with my 3D printed eyelet on the front bed only. I want to have a 40-row border, then I will start making the drop stitch. The most important thing is to secure the stitches that would be dropped later. To do that, start from the leftmost stitch and transfer the ones to be dropped later 1 needle to the right. For the purpose of the video, I will transfer all stitches on the row, but you have to transfer only the ones that you are planning to drop. Now make sure all empty needles are staying in working position. You may drop the front bed and attach some weights to make sure the first row will be knitted correctly. Now continue knitting as usual. After you reach the needed row count, you have to drop the same stitches that have been transferred in the beginning. The first stitch I transferred was the leftmost stitch, so I have to drop it now. Now you can raise all needles again and continue knitting using all of them. I will sew off the stitches to show you how the magic will happen. This is my test piece right after I took it off the machine. The lace row shows where the stitches will stop unraveling. I removed the weights while the piece was on the machine to show you how they will drop now. If you have weights attached, most of the stitches may drop while the knitting is on the machine. To drop the stitches, we need to pull the knitting as shown in the video. This is a very funny and entertaining part. Please don't forget to support me by liking the video and leaving me a comment below. And this is what the bottom looks like. As you can see, no stitches will drop under that line because all of them were secured in the beginning. Now I will show you an example of a drop stitch done by knitting on both beds of the machine. This is my favorite trim from the small stitch pattern book. First, make sure the racking handle is in its lowest position. I will raise 15 needles as it's shown in the book, but you may use any number of needles to make it as big or small as needed. Now raise the same number of needles on the back bed and make sure they are arranged according to the needle rule. It should look like this. I will set both locks to N and the stitch size to 4.5. I will insert the orange strippers and I will take the eyelet with the main yarn. As you can see, this is the eyelet that I glued in one of my previous videos. You may start by making a racking cast on since the edge will not be visible in most cases. I will reset the row counter and I will increase the stitch size to 5 on both sides of the lock. Since I have knitted only 2 rows, I will lay a strand of yarn over the stitches, then I will tie both ends below the beds of the machine and I will attach a weight on the loop. Now I have to put the racking handle to its highest position and secure the stitches that will be dropped later. To do that, I will transfer them to the opposite needles on the back bed. If you look at the diagram in the stitch pattern book, you will see that there are crosses below the stitches that you have to drop after you're done knitting. These are the same stitches you have to secure at the beginning of the knitting. After the needed stitches are transferred, make sure all empty needles are in working position and put the edge springs back on the last working ones. Now return the racking handle to its lowest position. Knit 4 rows with both locks set to N. Set the front lock to GX and knit 4 rows. Set the front lock to N and knit 4 rows again. Move the lever on the front lock to X and knit 4 rows. Then repeat these steps until the trim becomes the desired length. Now rotate the racking handle to its highest position. I will transfer the first 3 needles on the left to the opposite needles on the back bed to secure the bend. Then I will drop the rest of the stitches on the front bed. Those are all stitches that we secured at the beginning. Now you can make a cast off to remove the piece of the machine. I will simply sew off the stitches since this is only a test piece. This is what the trim looks like. It's not looking good, right? At first I will cut and pull out the yarn strand that we laid in the beginning. Now I will stretch the piece to drop the stitches. This is very satisfying. You may want to wax the yarn before knitting the trim so it's easier to unravel the stitches later. As you can see, the band on the left won't get unraveled. And this is what the trim should look like. It looks amazing if knitted with a thin cotton yarn. Another way to knit a drop stitch lace you can see by watching this video where I'm knitting a very cool scarf. Or you can watch this one to see some of the techniques I was talking about earlier. That's all for today. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.